1. In high school, my first real job was working for a retail chain. The store always had a hiring sign in it, so I thought it would be a great place to apply. My naive little 16-year-old self, though, didn't realize that constantly hiring means a high turnover rate of employees. There are lots of things I hated about this job, and though my list of grievances is long, this story is of the worst customer I ever had. I'd been working there for a couple months, still pretty new, and I was manning a register. This is important because I was not trained to man the registers, I was a floor stalker. But we were so understaffed that the store manager could just grab you off the floor to work registers if there were lines. Thus, I knew the basics of registers, but not how to fix sudden problems, and so during a long day of lines, a woman showed up to my register. There were lots of red flags here. First, she was on the phone. I didn't mind that in general, it saved me from having to make small talk. She was, however, talking loudly. I remember that the store wasn't very loud at the moment, and her voice was just echoing through the place. Second, she had a kid in the cart seat. That's another thing I don't care about, but this kid was way too big for the seat. It was a full child squished in there. Not only that, but the child was singing as loudly as his mother was talking. The pair were a fully fledged screamo band. People were staring. It was horrid. Finally, and most importantly, she had a cart completely filled to the brim. It was like a cartoon moment with cans and boxes in a big pile that was overflowing. I had never seen such a thing in real life and haven't since. Scanning all the items went fine, beyond the loud voices, and it totaled over $400 for small items. Nothing like a big vacuum, just a bunch of groceries. Once I was finished ringing everything up and bagging, I printed the receipt. The receipt, however, was so long that the printer ran out of paper part of the way through. I, a newbie floor stalker, had no idea how to restock the receipt printer. So I turned on my little help light, apologized to the glaring customer, and waited for my floor manager. Since we were understaffed and busy, it took a few tense minutes for the manager to arrive. And Ma'am was off the phone by then. The nice manager apologized nicely to Ma'am and informed her that the cash register couldn't print the receipt. Something about it being too much time since the first printing attempt. But the nice manager would be able to print it as a paper receipt from the guest services register. The only caveat was that if Ma'am wanted to return anything, she would need to use the same card she bought the items with. And holy mother of mouse. For some baffling reason, she flipped her lid. She started full-on screaming at little teenage me. The gist was, what if my husband wants to return items with his card? And that I was inept for being unable to work a simple receipt printer. That I should be kicked to the curb. As an insecure teenager in my first job being yelled at by an adult, I was terrified and started crying, which made her do the thing where she demanded to know why I was crying, and that I shouldn't be crying, etc. Nice manager was amazingly soothing, talking to her like she was a panicked horse, but she was not deterred. The most baffling thing I remember Ma'am saying was that I was setting a bad example for her screaming child. It was surreal. The nice manager finally managed to get a word in edgewise to ask her what she would like to do. She said, "Print my paper receipt, then return it all, and rescan it with a proper receipt." So a nice manager closed the register, told me to go to the break room and chill for a bit, and the last I saw of her was her smug face while the poor nice manager began scanning back $400 worth of groceries. I quit that job after 6 months. 2. I'll enjoy this. I work at a truck stop in a small town in Minnesota. We just made history with a huge storm front that came through last week. The storm was moving at 80+ miles an hour, and we had at least 7 confirmed tornado touchdowns. The store I work at had a NATO come within a quarter mile of us, causing us to lose power. Several of the customers who were sheltering with us were like, "What's the big deal? Can't we leave?" And after seeing the storm outside, were like, "Yeah, I think I'll stay." One guy even went so far as to tell us he had left his family in his car. When we let him out to get them, he simply got in his car and drove off in the thick of the storm. The best part was the next day. Power stayed out for almost 24 hours, meaning the store was closed the entire day. I cannot tell you how many people come up to the gas and diesel pumps and try swiping their cards, even though all the screens were dark and the store was dark. Several customers went so far as to try 3 different pumps. I'm guessing they thought their card wasn't working, I don't know. We were having a good laugh at them. Then there were the people who called the store wondering if we could just take cash for a bit of gas, a sandwich, a newspaper, whatever. Like, no, dude, there's no power. We have no way to process the transaction. We had several people get huffy with me when I told them that we were closed. Eventually, we started answering the phone in the most ridiculous ways we could think of. Mine was, "Thank you for calling WKRP, you're live on the air. What is the answer for today's trivia question?" The person never said anything, so I just hung up. Eventually, our corporate office, after nearly 15 hours without power, finally hooked us up with a backup generator, because, having one at the store already would make too much sense. They couldn't open the panel or whatever because the power company had a lock on it, and they were already overwhelmed with calls, hence why we waited 15 hours for them, so they couldn't come out. The generator guy said he could backdoor his way in, but it would take time. Dude had it 90% hooked up when the power company called and was like, "Oh, take that shit back. We got the power back up." Of course, it wasn't until 8:30, officially 24 hours after we lost power, that we had it again. The best part, our boss told us that we could go home rather than be in the store for the day. However, we would lose a day of pay since it was a scheduled shift. Power or no power. We all opted to stay except for me and another guy who went down to the bar to get supper for everyone. Luckily, the store reimbursed our supper bill and covered our snacks. Best day at work ever, honestly. 3. Here is my tale. I work in a convenience store and gas station that, due to extreme gas runoffs, requires you to prepay for gas unless paying directly at the pump. This is a frequent source of aggravation. This tale happens yesterday. Now, we deal out big yellow gas. And big yellow gas is not known, at least at my station, for its user-friendly hardware and software solutions. Customers' debit and credit cards are frequently rejected at the pumps, or frequent user error happens both ways, causing a "See Cashier" message to show on the screen. The customer then storms into the store, furiously, and often cutting in line, to ask me incredulously why it said that. "It can't read your card, you have to pay in here," is my stock response. Then either immediately try to get me to wait on them, thinking they are far superior to those already waiting for me in my line, in my very understaffed store, or resign themselves to fuming at the back of the line. Now, yesterday, thankfully, was dead, but cue furious guy rushing up to the counter and startling me, restocking L&M cigarettes, to immediately yell at me.
"It says see you. Why?"
Oh, damn, jeez. Hi, it can't read your card. You'll need to pay in here.
"Do I need to move to another pump? I'm not moving."
It would do the same thing. You need to pay in here.
"Okay, push the button. I'll go pump."
No, you need to pay in here. Prepay.
"What? How do I do that? I want a full tank."
I proceed to try and explain the prepay system. You set a stop amount, it charges after you pump, only what you pump, etc. Guy is getting angrier and not understanding. No, you're not going to get charged $40. It will stop at $40. It's holding your card info to charge after you pump. This was also back and forth as the guy was trying to figure out a stop amount.
"I want a full tank, not 40, just the exact amount to top it off."
And you'll get it. It charges after you pump.
"Then you can run my card after I pump. Turn it on."
I can't. You have to run your card first.
"But I'm not paying $40.
Unless you pump $40, you won't.
"Then why do I have to run my card?"
We need a card to charge for the gas.
"After I pump, I'll give you it then."
No. At this point, the who's on first convo is pointless.
I don't understand this crap. Can't you do it normal and just turn on the damn pump?
Until people stop stealing gas, no.
You don't think I'm honest?
Big Yellow doesn't want to take the chance.
Well, I'm going to a place that does. You people don't know how to pump gas.
Knowing that the two closest stations and many in the area are prepay only, I wonder where he's gonna try and go. Tell me this doesn't make you convenience store folks want to pull out your hair daily? Well, besides dealing with lottery people.
Ugh.
4. I am the owner of a convenience store in the mall. This means that if any of my employees aren't available to work, then it's either my wife or I. Which means for me a lot of 6-day weeks. My wife covers Sunday, working open to close. And which means I get to be the literal everything for the store, administrative and sales and labor. For a brief time, we had our staffing at a sustainable level with 2 employees, where I could limit myself to 5 days a week. When our longest employee got a second job working for one of the phone sales stores, so that cut into his hours. No problem, the other guy gets more hours, and I'm happy for number 1, because he's getting paid more, especially with his commissions. And number 1 is pressured to work 50 to 60-hour weeks for phone store because they can't keep people, and number 2 hasn't been trained to close yet. Well, he's not the fastest learner, and putting someone into training for closing means longer hours for me, but okay. We spend extra long training him how to close, and he finally gets to the point where we feel comfortable with him closing. And things are starting to stabilize for all of 2 weeks when he calls me, on Christmas Day, to put in his 2 weeks. I've got family over, I'm cooking on the grill, so the call is short, and I find out when I see him in person yesterday, it's because of his church. Apparently he's a Christian evangelical, and he signs some kind of contract with them, which now lets him demand his time to the point that he can't work for me anymore. Apparently, out of all the people that signed the contract, he's getting called more than any of them, being told, "The Lord is calling you," to do whatever this stuff is. More like the person writing the schedule is. I'm like, well, God's speaking through one person these days, and it's the guy costing you your job. That's amazing. And then virtually in the same breath, number 2 is asking me if I can commit to rehiring him sort of seasonally, next holiday season, while we're still talking about when his last day will be. Dude, seriously? You're getting sucked into unpaid church work at the cost of your job and leaving me in the lurch, and you want promises from me? Seriously? So yeah, we're hiring again. Yay. A little while later he comes in, and I ask him if these commitments to the church are anything we can schedule around. He expresses that he's got his church thing, fine. He's going back to school, so there will be studies, fine. His YouTube channel, which isn't at that level that gets any money yet, but good grief. And his need for personal time. So apparently making money is number 5 on the list. Well, whatever. I asked him if his church realizes that he's having to give up his job because of their demands. Apparently yes, they do. It's his personal sacrifice. Fucking twisted that is. And then I said something about how it's a shame nothing can be worked out because it screws me over. He was gobsmacked. Does it? Of course it does. I invested weeks in training you how to close, and you do this? Now I'm going to be back working 6 days a week with 4 of them open to close. How could you think it doesn't screw me? And it's pretty damn ballsy to ask me to promise you a job after this. Jesus fucking Christ. The lack of self-awareness of some people. I feel a little bad for losing my cool at the end there, but sheesh, how dense can you be? 5. So I work at a fashion jewelry store that also does piercings. This mom and daughter come in one day asking how much it costs to get a piercing, and I say it's $35, all up, with the service, jewelry, aftercare spray, which the mum proceeds to say, "Why is it so expensive?" Which, if you know the first thing about piercings, $35 is insanely cheap. Anyway, the daughter says, okay, we're just going to check one more place. I assume they were going to check the hair salon that does piercings too, and they charge way more, like double, because they use a needle. Anyways, when she comes in, she says her mum wants to mark the ears, and the mum shows me the fine tip ink pen she brought in, which was hilarious to me, because there's no way we're allowed to use a random pen to mark the ear. I tell her she can guide me, but we have a surgical marker I have to use. Fast forward, and the mum hardly knows where she wants the marks. I check in with her multiple times, and she literally shrugs and says she doesn't know if the placement looks good. I'm giving her full control of how it should look because she's being insanely fussy. But finally, she agrees and I do the piercing. Fast forward. She comes back, half an hour, blazing about how I did it uneven, and starts to yell at everybody and demand that I take the earring out and redo it. I tell her that I can't do it since the device we used, a StudX System 75, can only use the earrings once, and when they're not in the cartridge anymore, we can't put them back in. I will admit, I could have handled it better, but half my coworkers have been sick due to COVID, and I've been working day after day, so I was burnt out, and when she yelled at me, I sort of zoned out. I'm sort of new, and my anxiety had been bad recently, so I literally just froze. Anyways, my coworker, who takes no shit from customers, said that if she wants it redone, she has to wait for it to heal because otherwise it'll get infected if we take it out now since there's still going to be a hole. I apologize to the daughter since she's the one being pierced, and the daughter isn't actually upset with the piercing, it's just the mum. The coworker says that if they want it redone, then they'll have to get it redone in the 8 weeks with the new set. She starts going off and decides to call her husband, who threatens to call fair trade on us, and continues yelling at my coworker on the phone. We don't have a manager in today either, so when she demanded one, we had to call up our regional. In the end, we refunded her, which honestly I have done before, and like I said, I could have handled it a lot better, but I was just having a rough day. Anyways, fast forward to my next shift. I had a day off and I'm rested enough, but I'm still feeling off from working so often. My manager asks how I am because she knows I've been covering heaps, and I say I'm okay, but the day before I was really out of it. I tell her I have a story for her a bit later. I go in the stockroom to get ready, and I hear her talking to some customers when I walk out. I immediately recognize them from the previous days, and I just go, oh shit, in my head. This time, she has also brought her husband, as if that really makes a difference, to be honest. We tell them that since we can't reuse the same jewelry, and that we're out of the one she's wearing, but we have it in silver instead of gold. The daughter is fine with that, and this time I decide to let the parents mark out the piercing. The dad tells me to do it right this time, and the whole time we're doing the piercing, the dad's telling me that it's dumb that I told them to wait 8 weeks, and I keep telling them that is just what I'm told to say. Every time I talk, he interrupts me to tell me that we do things in a stupid way. And the mum tells me that I worry too much, because she pierced hers with a sewing needle and they were fine. I tell them whatever they decide to do is up to them, but I have to follow policy. I let them mark the piercing area, I tell them I'll let them have full control, and the dad tells me I need to give them input as well. Which is funny considering they didn't take my input in the first place. I literally stand there and let them take as long as they want because I assumed whatever I did was going to be wrong anyways. At points they get really frustrated with each other because they can't tell if they made it even or not. Also, they did not have their glasses with them. I constantly check to make sure they're happy. Even in the end, they still seem kind of unsure, but they hesitantly tell me to go ahead. I ask them if I'm good while I'm lining up, and they say okay. I ask them if I'm good while I'm piercing through, and they again say okay. When we're finally done, the daughter thanks me, and I wish her well because she was nice to me this entire ordeal. I hope I never have to speak to them again. I get that I could have handled it better, but I can't help shutting down when I'm yelled at. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Adventures in Fast Food and Retail, episode 148. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. If you enjoyed the video, then please do share it with all your friends and family. And if you haven't done so already, subscribing is appreciated. And hit that notification bell if you want to be notified each time I upload a video. Theoretically. Alright, let's see. This is Monday. Yes, it's Monday. Okay. I tend to record my weekend videos at once, at least when I can. All in like the same recording session. So whenever you hear me saying, what day is this? It's because I'm generally not recording on that day. Sometimes I do. When I'm behind or I'm not feeling great, I'll get behind on videos, so they might go up that day. But generally, I like to do them ahead. Lets me catch up with other things. Okay, right. Monday. Monday, there's something or other of. 17th. I'm at the 17th already. I think this year's going to whoosh by again. Okay. I don't need to remember I need to pay some taxes before the end of the month. I mean, I could do it any time, but just I'll probably do it I'll probably do it this coming weekend. Probably a good time to do it then. Okay, no birthday shoutouts today, I think. I think the next one's on the 18th. Yeah, I think the next one's on Tuesday, that's fine. I just want to say a quick thank you to everyone who joined me the weekend for the unboxing stream. Thank you to all of you who have sent me gifts to the P.O. Box. Very much appreciated and always pleasantly surprised when I go down to check and something's there that I haven't ordered myself. Generally, I'm ordering books and things. You know, it's easier just to send them there rather than getting annoyed by the postman because half the time they take my packages away and I have to go pick them up anyway. Okay, and with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening and take very good care of yourself.